I'm wasting 20% of my garden space, and I'm gonna tell you why you should too. You've been hearing it over and over and over and over again. Maximize your growing space by crowding your beds. And I agree, by maximizing the amount of food you grow within the footprint of your bed or row. But they're forgetting one major thing. Now imagine the efficiency. I'm gonna show you how to maximize efficiency for bigger harvest, less weeds, and a garden that only gets better with time. Our first year of this garden, we jam-packed everything as close together as we could to maximize as much food as we could grow possible. We forgot about one major thing, and that was maintaining the rows. Small paths equals smaller harvesting. With this method, you're limited to collecting everything that fits within a basket, meaning you likely aren't going to be preserving your harvest at all. Try collecting a year's worth of tomatoes one bucket at a time. I dare you. But when you're planning your garden layout and the width of those pathways and beds, and even if you only do fresh eating on a small scale, I'm going to tell you why you still want a wide open layout on my next point, compaction. With a poorly thought out layout, either super small paths or extremely large beds, you or others will be pressed to walk in beds or rows.
Don't, there's plants there. Don't, there's plants there. Don't do that, there's plants there. No, that's a plant!
Not only does this mean that you're compacting the soil year over year, leading to worse growing seasons to come, but you're limiting the growing you could do in the space that you're trying to maximize the most. Picture this. You lay out this big 8x20 garden bed in early spring, thinking you'll get the most plants jam-packed into that space you possibly can. But you're actually limiting what you can actually grow in that space altogether, meaning that you'll have to reach all the way into the center of that bed just to harvest what's in the center. And in doing so, you either step on plants or compact that soil. And if you leave that space blank, you're leaving space for weeds. With the garden bed too big, you're likely to knock over your marigolds to get your trellising tomatoes. Now let's hit on how to start thinking about your garden layout. And if you already have one, don't be afraid to change it. With a little bit larger aisles, you need to start thinking about the implements that make your life easier. For one, a garden cart. That means you could throw out those tiny little baskets and actually focus on collecting more of your harvest. Try to think outside the wheelbarrow for this one. You might think it solves for space with its tiny little wheel and its larger cart. However, it has a few different downsides. When it comes to heavy amendments, it really does become a lot to lift this thing up and go on. Think about your future self. Not just your future older self, but your January self. You really want to be pushing around that cart everywhere when you could do a four-wheel design? By making your pathways just big enough for that four-wheel cart, you're saving so much time and efficiency, and your back will thank you later. But it's not just the cart. Think about what you have access to. If you have a mower, will it be beneficial to actually make this row big enough to make sure your mower can get between the rows so that you can keep weeds down? Because weed efficiency and weed control is a huge deal. Or even like a zero turn or drive on mowing cart row, just so that you can get to the back of some areas so that you're not carrying heavy soil everywhere. Let me show you what we did. It's a lot more wasted space, but so much less wasted time. We have access to our tractor, so we made our rows as large as the bucket to the tractor. You might call this wasted space, but stay to the end and I'll show you just how these rows are key to our regenerative garden. My issue here in Tennessee is crabgrass, and with this tiny row, it was so hard to manage. Seriously, look at this whole thing. Everything that's brown right here is dormant crabgrass. These larger aisles allow me to get directly in the center of these two rows and scrape out all of the weeds that grow inside of the aisles. I don't think you understand. This turns maintenance from a nightmare to a breeze. Now, I know not all of you have a tractor, but that's not the point. It's about using the tools at your disposal to make your gardening so much easier, because yourself right now, as you're starting and planning, you're thinking about what you're gonna grow and how much you're gonna grow. But your July self is gonna be kicking you if you don't make the right decision today. In planning for this garden, I didn't just think about my tractor, I thought about large trucks in delivering dirt, soil, and even wood chips. I thought about rows and pathways for those large trucks to back up to and dump all of that. I thought ahead and thought about a row just for my trailer to be able to get in here, because that's what I planned on first, was just one large row between all the rows so that I could get my trailer through here and still have a closer point for all of my soil, mushroom compost and everything to be easily accessible in the middle of everything instead of way off to the side or outside of the garden even. Moving one wheelbarrow at a time is not fun. I made sure to have access points even around the back side of the garden so that I could get over to the greenhouse and maintain the greenhouse just in case I needed to, which you definitely need sometimes because with our high winds, those panels can sometimes blow out. And then even tractor access to my compost piles so that all of that is way easier to maintain. A tractor does not need to be your goal, but even thinking about a small four-wheeler with a small trailer can help you in so many ways. A loss of row space doesn't mean a loss of harvest, especially when you could trellis and grow vertically, because growing vertically can really help your plants and your time. But even with trellises or thoughtful bed placement, soil is still king. And that's where these large rows really shine. They allow me to get my tractor bucket just through the center of them, scooping everything into one giant pile. These row piles then get scooped up and brought directly into my compost pile. Once here, these piles break down even more, turning into incredibly rich, fertile soil to then go back onto the top of the beds later, making an incredible regenerative system. Then we'll come back, top dress this entire row with brand new chips, increasing breakdown in place, keeping weed retention down, and then all to be scooped back up again, thrown back into the compost pile where we get fresh soil all over again. And this also helps considering the method of how we grow in our gardens in our giant rows for raised beds using wood chips as the sides. And if you want to see just how this method works, what we put inside, and how great this is for regeneration, check out this video at the end. I'll see you over there and can't wait to show you a very cheap alternative to raised beds.